everyone. Welcome to this event we have today with the TDS Health customer engagement team. We have joining us today Dr. Adam Fish, who is the creator and founder of Ditki, and as well as Amy Harris, who is a science writer, but also wears many hats at Ditki and can help with a lot of the customization that we are talking about today on this event. Please drop any questions into the Q&A. I'm also interested to hear if anyone is in the path of totality of the eclipse today. That's a kind of a cool tidbit if you could drop it in. Hope you're able to enjoy that. Hope you have clear skies today. I'm located in Idaho, so won't be able to see it, but some others, I know Amy, you said you're able to see it. Dr. Fish, hopefully you're able to leave and see that for a minute. It's a pretty cool experience. Okay, well, let's get started. Again, if anyone has any questions, please drop them in the Q&A and I'll monitor that throughout the event here.
Great. Well, I wanted to kick things off by just running through an overview of Ditki and the key values that we bring to the table. And I think that regardless of how familiar you are with it, sometimes it's helpful just to see the information really hammer home the key points here. So we are a multimodal educational resource with a broad range of activities, from interactive whiteboard tutorials to assessment exercises to a broad listing of atlases and directories, a robust Q bank, and a really comprehensive integrated curriculum. And as Dr. Shanks says, with Ditki, you not only acquire knowledge, but build a framework for its assessment, synthesis, and mastery. And this is really one of the key things that we do different from others. With Ditki, information is presented in a programmatic knowledge acquisition framework. So it's really hammering in this concept of memory scaffolding. So typically in a standard resource, information is presented linearly, so that it's presented point by point by point, which leads to recency bias and ultimately to memory decay. And what students end up with after their first pass through the information is sort of a scattershot knowledge base, where the most recent information is at the forefront of their minds, whereas early information is decayed. And so then they have to cycle through it again and again until they get a cohesive understanding of the information. But from the outset with Ditki, what we do is we layer information into a knowledge framework, so that as you're learning the information, the individual points are reinforcing each other. That's an abstraction of what we do. From a concrete example, what we mean by this is that in a standard resource, information changes constantly on the screen, so that throughout the course of the video, you're seeing various images. Whereas with Ditki, information builds into this whiteboard where information is always presented within its overall framework, sort of the forest with the trees built in. So the effect that this has is when you're watching through a video, it means that early information is maintained on the screen throughout the course of the tutorial, so you're constantly able to visually reinforce it. And I bring up this concept because a lot of us really like a whiteboard style approach, but a lot of us don't really understand what it is that's so valuable about presenting information in this way. In addition to this framework approach, we do really empower multimodal learning with audio, visual, kinesthetic instruction. And again, why is this so effective? It's so effective because when you're using all areas of your brain, all modalities of your brain, you're maximizing storage capacity, because information is stored ultimately in long-term retention within the sensory modality in which it's achieved. So even if you're not sort of a motor person who wants to draw information out and get physical with it, like some are, just by thinking about things in a kinesthetic manner, you are employing that area of the brain and you're really getting the most out of what you can use. As well, one of the values of the whiteboard approach is that it lends itself extremely well to assessment. And as we know, repetitive assessment is a key way to retrieve information and solidify it into long-term storage. So we'll show you some of the key ways that our drawing pad can be used for assessment if you haven't used it already. I think it's really important to discuss just briefly the broad range of atlases and directories we have. And I'll take a moment and just show how it's great to have illustrations, but it's really important to make an immediate connection to the real thing, be it a cadaveric section or radiographic image, so that in your mind, you are creating a strong association between the thing that you're creating, the tutorial, the whiteboard that you're creating, and the real image that you're going to carry within your mind in practice and understanding. And this is just sort of a broad range of the imagery that we provide, all the way from MRI sections to cadaveric sections to photographs of clinical findings. Finally, we often get the question of how should Ditki be used? It certainly is most ideally used as a flipped classroom where students are watching tutorials prior to class, but we've also learned from faculty just the multivarious ways in which the resource is used either in class or after lectures sometimes, just to help bring information together. And Amy works very closely with faculty, creating custom curricula and organizing the Ditki materials around coursework. And so in doing so, she often learns from faculty ways in which the site's used that we hadn't even anticipated. We'll talk a lot about custom courses and setting up study plans because we found it so integral to getting people able to use the software seamlessly within their course. We understand that there's a lot of heavy lifting oftentimes when it comes to resources and getting them implemented within your course. And so we want to do that work for you. This slide just illustrates how integrated the information is from the basic sciences all the way to the clinical sciences. And we think that for a lifelong learning, it's really important to make sure that the basic sciences are brought into the clinical sciences for that strong sense of mastery. I just want to point out finally that the things that we're trying to achieve with this resource is improve classroom engagement, either by pre-reading or by active exercises, improving test scores, of course, and where we're really useful is with long-term retention, really getting good memory consolidation in the long term, and then in remediation as well, and giving struggling students a boost. Not all of us come into our programs with the same background. I, for one, came into medical school with an English background, so some of us have more background before we enter these programs than others, and Ditki lends itself very well to that kind of issue. So I'm going to jump on briefly here and just show some of these concepts that I'm talking about. So with the whiteboard approach, the information is building out. But as a student's learning about, for instance, the brain, they can click over into the notes.
Hey, Adam.
Oh,
You're still showing us. Yeah,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah, there
Sorry.
you go. Okay. Sorry about. Thank you. So there we go. Okay, so this was one of the first things, because this approach I've been working with since I was a neurology resident at WashU back in 2005, 2006. And one of the first things I learned was that these illustrations are great. They're a great way to encapsulate information, but people want to know what the real thing is. And so as these whiteboard tutorials are building out, we have notes along the side that employ our atlases and directories, so you can make this cadaveric section connection between the illustration and then the so-called real thing. I am going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to step away and I'll turn things over to Amy so she can talk about custom curriculum, study plans, and things of that nature. Kate or Amy, before I sort of stop my screen share, is there anything else you want me to kind of point out before I step away?
No, I don't think so. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware how to contact Amy for this type of setup. Maybe after Amy, you do your discussion, you can make sure everyone has your contact information.
Yeah, of course, sure. So let me go ahead and share my screen now.
I'm going to jump back down to the ER, so it's been nice joining
Thank
you
you
guys.
very much for your time.
You bet. You bet. Take care.
Okay, so let me change my browser size a little bit here. So this is the general dashboard that shows all of our courses. Depending on what kind of subscription you have, obviously you may have all of these courses or you may have a selection of them. I do like to point out that we have everything from kind of high school level all the way to USMLE Step 3 and these clinical medicine courses. So if you, like I said, you probably have some or perhaps all of these. Another thing you'll notice is I have these kind of funny looking courses here. These are our custom courses. So these are really super great. For example, we have these individual modules and they have their selection of tutorials, but we often have faculty who come in and say, oh, well, I like what you have over here in this course and I like what you have in this course over here, but I want my students to have a single landing page. So this is how we achieve this. This is an example from a course in advanced, it's an advanced nursing course. Was it a pathophysiology course? We standard on our site, we have a pathology course and a physiology course. This professor wanted everything combined. And so we put together this course for her. And all it took to do this was just a couple of meetings to go through her course objectives and learning, I like to know what textbooks they're using so I have an idea of what level they're looking for and what kinds of information they want. And then a nice clear syllabus that tells me, exactly what topics they're covering. So these tutorials that are here, these are all selected based on the information that was given to me about what's covered in her course. As you can see, there are a lot of tutorials here. So then the next step, even in a custom course, and we'll go through this in other courses as well, is to make study plans so that she can assign specific tutorials. But we'll get into that in a moment. I just wanted to make sure that this custom course option was clear from the get-go so that people looking at the site aren't thinking like, well, I like it, but it's not organized the way I want it. We can do this for you. It takes less than a week in most cases to put this together. There's a little bit of back and forth probably about, once I have it set up, I'll give it over to the professor, let them look over it, decide if they like it, if they want changes made, I make those changes, and then it's good to go. And the nice thing is that, for example, this course was used for several semesters. So once that initial work is put in, it's set, it's ready to go, in perpetuity, basically. So just keep that in mind as your faculty are looking at this, that we can reorganize things as they like. Any questions about custom courses?
No, I just have one question pertaining to content that will connect with the person that asked the question after the webinar, but
okay.
No, not at this time.
Okay. One thing I will say is, just because I get that question a lot, is that is included in your subscription costs or your license costs. So there isn't an extra fee. Sometimes faculty or librarians will hesitate to ask us to do these things because they assume there are additional fees. There are not. We're happy to do it. We want you to get the most out of your license, and that's one way to do that.
Amy, there is actually one question.
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned about the timing for it. What is the timing exactly for it?
Within a week, everything is usually settled. Like I said, I like to meet with the professor, get an idea of, what their course goals are, what level the students are. And then they give me their, syllabus and any other information that's helpful. I put the course together. That takes maybe a day. I give it, give them access. They look over it. They let me know if they want any changes. I make those changes. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. But the more and better information I have at the beginning, the faster it can go, obviously, because then I can, try to meet your goals, right off the bat. But it's a very quick process.
Okay, thank you.
And it's sure. So in here, this is our A&P course. It's one of our most popular. That's why I went to it. As you can see, there are hundreds of tutorials in here, and it would be unreasonable to expect that a professor would want their students to do all of them. So we have the option to create study plans, which is a way to assign tutorials or content to your students. So you just would come in here, and let me show you just real quick what a study plan does. So the student would click here. They could go to week 1, for example, and now you just see a smaller selection of those tutorials, and then week 2, move on to the next unit or whatever. So to make these, all the professor would need to do is go to either create a new study plan or view and edit. We'll do view and edit just so you can see what this page looks like. Create a new study plan. Obviously, I'm not going to share this with anybody right now. You can name it however you want. I find that most professors either like to do a weekly plan or they like to do it by exam block. It's really up to you. You can have as many study plans as you like. There's no limit. You can define a date range for it. Most people don't do that. You can share it with the entire university. I don't recommend doing that. We have group pins that we can give you so that you can share it with a select group of students. So for example, if I was teaching, 2 sections of an A&P course, I would probably ask for 2 group pins, one for group A, one for group B. And then here I would share it with, group A or group B, whoever I needed to share it with. You would just deselect all and then select the tutorial that you want in this plan, save it, and then it'll show up here. You can get a shareable URL so that you can drop that into your LMS. You can edit the plans, you can copy them and edit them. And just like the custom course, once these are set up, they're yours forever. So you can reuse them semester after semester. You can share them with new groups. It's pretty easy. And faculty can edit these themselves.
Amy, I do have a question from the group. Michael asks, can this be used to develop interactive sessions for in-person portion of flipped classroom model?
Yes. Let me make one more note about the study plans, and then we'll start talking about different ways that this is used. So we definitely have, most of our faculty members are happy to make their own study plans. They I suppose, enjoy or don't mind this process of going in and clicking these buttons and setting their study plans up. But not everybody does. Not everybody has time for that. No, some people just aren't interested in learning how to do it, and that is 100% fine. Same as with the custom courses. Send us your syllabus, send me your syllabus. Give me an idea of how much work you want your students to be doing on the site, which we'll get into next. And I will set the study plans up for you, and you can edit them at any time, or I can edit them. Which goes back to Kate's earlier question, how to contact us. I would recommend you can always contact us through this form. This will go to everyone on our team. I will see it. You can put your message in here and I will get back to you. You can email me directly at Harris, my last name, HARRIS @ditki.com, or you can reach the whole team at support@ditki.com. And I will see that, our whole team will see that. There are times when Adam and I will collaborate on something. He's obviously the neuro guy, so if a course is heavily neuro focused, I'll usually have him set that up because he has created all of that neuro content and is really familiar with it. But most other things, those are things that I set up. Take a little sip of water, and then I will talk about ways that I've seen professors use this. So yeah, as Adam said, the flipped classroom model is really great for this because you can create these assignments, have your students do the work outside of class, come in to your class, and then they're ready for you to teach whatever you normally teach. So this can go a couple of ways. So like if you're teaching anatomy and physiology, you have your students do the A&P tutorials before they come in, they're ready to go, then you can go ahead and do the more complicated topics, or because they've completed our quizzes, you have an idea of which areas they're struggling in, so you know to focus on those. But another way that this is used in that model is, say you're teaching a more advanced clinical class, and I've seen this a lot with the advanced nursing programs where, you know, they're on this accelerated timeline. The instructor does not have time to teach them A&P, and it's really not what they're there for. But we've often heard that students come in and, as Adam said, they don't have the background, or they don't remember, or they didn't learn it as well. So even though it's not an A&P course, for example, I've had instructors assign specific tutorials from those kind of fundamental basic science courses so that they can come in and then they can apply the clinical applications. They can get into treatments, they can get into pathology, knowing that their students have the foundation that they need them to have to expound on those topics. So that's been kind of an interesting thing for me to learn as I work with them, that they don't really care that we don't have maybe the, you know, treatment management for something. What they really want Ditki for is to go into those fundamental concepts that the students either never learned or have lost along the way.
And Amy, I just want to point out that
Yeah.
just spurred a comment you said in a previous call that residency programs use that Ditki for that very purpose, as a refresher of content.
Yes.
Feeding that content to their residents.
Yeah, any of those more advanced clinical applications kind of programs. Again, we all like to think that we're ready to go at whatever level we're at, but the truth is, you know, there are topics we've always struggled with, or topics we've never been introduced to, and it's, you know, rather, nobody wants to struggle. So assigning Ditki tutorials or making this available, you know, at the residency level, just making this available to those residents and letting them know, like, hey, you know, we're going to be covering X, Y, or Z. If you're not comfortable with the basic science yet, go back and review it. Our tutorials are short, our lessons are short. They're meant to be, you know, consumed in one sitting. It's not 40 minutes of somebody talking, scribbling on a chalkboard. So they really can get in there and get the remediation that they need. Let me get back to all tutorials. So let's go into something here to show you. I like cardiac induction. Okay, so here's an example of the tutorial as the student would view it. They can watch the video, they can read the notes. The interactive aspects come in when you go into the drawing pad. You can click down here or up here, it doesn't matter. And so here are some things that you could do in class, or you could assign your students to do out of class. You could have them draw along with the video in class. I think that would be a little bit awkward, but they can complete starter images in class. They could do this collaboratively. We have a way for professors to download all of these starter images. So if you're teaching, you know, a live in class, you could even print these out, pass them out, have students work on them together. Or there are a lot of really cool interactive features in Zoom, for example, where you could have small groups break out, complete this image, work on it together. There's a lot to be said for not only peer review, but peer collaboration. So you could also have students, you know, maybe work in groups on, for example, this diagram, trade their work with another group, grade it, go over it, let them walk each other through what they got wrong or right or what needs work, and then, you know, come back together as a class. So that's one example of how you could use this in class. You could certainly, you know, play pieces of the video and have students draw along. I think most professors probably have their own style of teaching, so I don't know how well that would really work, but it is something you could do. Other activities here in the drawing pad that they could take advantage of is the label canvas. This one's really great for just kind of a quick drag and drop. This is another thing you could easily have students work on, either on a, you know, a printed sheet of paper or on their devices. I know a lot of schools now, you know, they have computers in the classrooms, or they have tablets, and then students could be grading each other. They could be working on it together. Our system doesn't grade it for them, but they can always check here. So again, more ways to maybe bring this into the classroom, break out in small groups. I know that like the problem-based learning is huge, and people really like that, and breaking into groups and working on these things together or separately and going through the answers together, or maybe going through the answers as a class. Those are some great ways to get interactive, especially if you've got, you know, an hour or an hour and a half long lecture and you just want some little breakout sessions. These are really great ways to do that. And if the students have done them before class, this should go pretty smoothly. And if they haven't done them before class, well, this is a great introduction to it. Any questions about that? And I hope I answered the question and understood it correctly.
Yeah, I don't see any further questions in terms of that follow.
Okay. Other options for students that you could have them do are take these quizzes. The quizzes within the tutorials are meant to be really direct. They're focused just on that tutorial. Did the students get what they needed out of it? I think these quiz questions are really great for professors too, because if you have your students do these before class, you can go into our analytics and you can see how your students did individually, but also as a group. So this is what I was saying before. You know, if you find that there are certain areas where your students excelled, that's great. Maybe you don't have to spend as much time on that in lecture, but you can also maybe see, wow, they really struggled with this portion of this tutorial. I better spend more time on this. So it can also give you some guidance so that you can use your class time more effectively. And that goes for obviously in class or online classes. Yeah, all the data is stored for these. So these make great assignments, just sort of, you know, we're always wanting to assess students and what they got out of it. So this is a really easy way for students to get some points on the site. Exercises, these are short snippets of the tutorial generally. Sometimes we bring in other clinical applications, but we didn't in this tutorial as far as I can tell. These do not like to show when I'm on Zoom. It's so frustrating. I don't know why. I think it's my computer just being like, no, you've got too much going on. But these are short snippets of the tutorial, and it will appear as a small drawing pad essentially. So these are also really great in-class or out-of-class activities where you could have your students zone in on a particular concept or portion of the tutorial. Again, they could work together, they could do breakout groups, or they could do these on their own. This is also stored in our analytics, as is everything that they did in this larger drawing pad environment. All of their drawings are saved. So if you want to assign drawings or labeling activities, you can, and you'll be able to see their work. Any questions about that? I know I'm running out of time. So at this point, yeah, I think maybe shift to questions, Kate.
Yeah, no, I have a question. You mentioned the drawing pad. Is that just how the tutorial continues, or is there an actual pad that is used?
Sorry, I hit the button I meant to hit. Go back to the overview. So when a student arrives on a tutorial, let's just go back to course so that I can walk you straight through. Sorry. So for example, you've assigned your student cardiac conduction. They visit the tutorial, they can watch it statically here, they can read the notes. If they want to draw along, then they hit draw along with the video, and the video can play right over. And it's we don't need to hear him. So it's web-based, they don't need any extra software, there's nothing to download. It works really well on like a tablet. It works pretty well on a laptop. I'm on a laptop, and you can kind of see my marks here. And it'll start out from the blank page, play the full tutorial, and as the student draws along, their images will appear here. We have a full suite of drawing tutorials. They can get, you know, as detailed and as pretty as they want, or if they're like me, they'll just sort of have some chicken scratch that means a lot to them, and they've internalized the work themselves. I know when I took gross anatomy and I was drawing things out, nobody else could learn from my diagrams, but I knew what they meant, and they meant a lot to me. So it's the same concept here. It's to encourage students to draw along and give them kind of the template and the environment to do so. Does that answer that question, Kate?
Yeah, I believe so. One other
Okay.
question, how,
Mhm.
I know we are up against time, but I think it's worth a
Yeah,
little extension here to
sure.
answer this. Um, how would one access the I'm sorry, the
Okay.
student data that you're referring to?
The student data. So for the analytics, if you have admin access, when you register on our site, we get an email saying that, hey, someone registered and they indicated that they were faculty. And then we'll do some research. We'll verify that you are, in fact, a faculty member so that we're not giving this out to students. We will tick a little box in your account and we'll let you know that now you can share study plans and view analytics and do some other things on the site. So once you have that admin access, you just hover over your name, click institutional analytics. You'll sign back in. It's the same login credentials. And then you will be taken to your, just your page. Obviously, you won't have access to other schools' data. And then here you get a snapshot of the entire university when you first click in here. And then you can drill down by course. If you have a group pin, which I highly recommend, you can go in and look at data just for the group pin. And then here you can look at it by the tutorial. You can go in by study plan. You can look by the student, him or herself. There are a lot of different ways you can view the data. I encourage new faculty members, if they want to use this, to just take 5 minutes, poke around, figure out, you know, how to see what you're looking for, or just reach out to us. I'm happy to hop on a call, walk you through it. And then we also have information in our FAQ and our onboarding resources um,
Mhm.
to get through this. Let me show you where those things are really quickly. So the FAQ is in the toolbar. If you
Mhm.
click for institutions, there's a ton of information in here. So you can get a demonstration. You can go through those admin features I just mentioned. You can learn about different ways to get access. And then here's where you can look at institutional analytics information or the study plans. We also have information in this onboarding resources tab with some videos where I think these are mostly actually me walking you through those features. But I am always happy to meet one-on-one to talk about setting up your course or setting up a custom course or walking you through study plans or the analytics. We capture a lot of data on the site, so the analytics can seem overwhelming at first, but once you figure out how to get the view you want, you're good to go.
Great, thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
TDS Health, our customer engagement team onboards new customers. This is a fairly new team, so some current subscribers may not have experienced that. But moving forward, for any prospects that might be on the call that are considering the resource, we will onboard and make sure that there's designated faculty that have administrative access and create study plans, et cetera, and also connect them with Amy when it comes to providing a syllabus and making sure that all happens. So, I hope it's loud and clear through this webinar that we had today that TDS Health, as well as Ditki, is here to support when it comes to
Yeah.
making this resource not just a student tool, but something that faculty can use, residency directors and coordinators, et cetera, can use to engage with their users and promote the resource widely at their institutions. So I think with that, I think we're good. Amy, were there any other points you wanted to go over or anything like that? I don't have any more open
Um,
questions.
no, I don't have any more to add other than to just sort of reiterate what you just said. We're all here to help and support. I I know that when a new faculty member is first looking at the site, it can seem overwhelming. But once we get you drilled in on a course and we get you set up, it's honestly easier than most people expect. People are pleasantly surprised. And the same goes for our tech support. We've had a lot of positive feedback on how quickly we respond to technical issues or student issues, which makes us feel good because we don't want to just put this out there. We want everybody to have a really great experience and get to focus on learning. That's what we care about.
Great, thank you. Well, this has been very helpful. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Again,
you.
everyone, please, I'll send out a recording to everybody of this, but please feel free to connect with us to take the next step if you haven't already to customize Ditki for your needs. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon and take care.
Thank you all. Enjoy the eclipse if you get to see it.
Yes, yes, you too, Amy. Take care.
Thanks.